Good evening and welcome to live coverage of the Leaders' Speech to the Green Party's annual convention. You join us in the concert hall of the RDS, where soon Eamon Ryan will take to the stage. Right now, Deputy Leader Catherine Martin is speaking to an audience that includes not only its current elected representatives, but also many of those who will stand for the Green Party in the upcoming local and European elections in June.
To justify rolling this basic income to all artists. And make no mistake, rolling the basic income out to all artists is my absolute goal. Members, there are 7 weeks left until the local and European elections. For the next 7 weeks, canvass. And when you've canvassed all your area, canvass it again. It's all to play for. Ask the people to keep going green, and let's win those seats. Agus Anisha Carja, it is my pleasure to introduce a colleague, a friend and a true mentor for us all. He has a track record like no other in fighting for and delivering climate action. A politician and a visionary who has ensured green policies deliver for all. Please welcome our party leader, Minister Eamon Ryan.
Eamon Ryan entering the hall. He was first elected to the Dáil in 2002 and soon begins his 14th year as party leader. This one-day convention has been styled as an election rally. Much of the focus of the discussions during the day has been on the importance of green representation at all levels of government in framing and delivering responses to the challenges of climate change.
Good evening to everyone at home. And thank you, Catherine, for your kind introduction and for your leadership in government. Thank you for the support for the arts, for setting up Comisiún na Man, which will play such an important role in regulating social media. Thank you for recognising the value and importance of public service broadcasting. It's the answer to the disinformation and polarisation which is such a risk to our democracy today. So we commit today to deliver on our promise of a new funding model before the Dáil summer break. And once we do, it will stand as one of this government's achievements and be one of your most important legacies as a minister. Friends, we meet at a time of great danger in the world. War has returned to Europe. Gaza lies in ruins. People are starving in Sudan and fleeing their land. Democracy is under threat, even in the United States, where the prospect of another Donald Trump presidency looms large. Even in our European Union, the best suddenly seem to lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. This loss of faith in multilateral cooperation is all the more tragic because it diverts us from what we should be focusing our attention on, the existential threat that life on this planet faces from climate change and the destruction of our natural world. We know that each of the last 10 months has been the warmest in recorded history. Average global air temperatures have gone above the 1.5 degree increase, which scientists tell us is a tipping point, beyond which things could become unstoppable. In Ireland, we've seen the reality ourselves with endless rain over the last 10 months. Our fields are sodden. Too wet to pick potatoes in the autumn or to sow grain in the spring. Cattle still in their sheds at the end of April, almost May. Around the world, climate change is bringing havoc, causing conflict and forced migration, and it's a sign of what's to come. Ignoring this reality will ruin everything we hold most dear. The future security of our children and their children depends on our ability to change course. What's one to do in response to such fears? What hope is there in the face of such immense developments and difficult odds? Well, I look around this room and I see an answer to that question. I see ordinary citizens who are willing to do an extraordinary thing, to stand for election and be part of the solution, willing to take local action, which is the best antidote to fear, to hold the centre ground and stand up for democracy and science, to reflect human decency and respect the rule of law, to play whatever small part we can to bring peace to our world. Kieran Cuff, Grace O'Sullivan and Pauline O'Reilly have that responsibility and opportunity to represent us in the European Parliament, where you can set laws that become global standards and be a voice of influence on the international stage. Deputy Brian Ledden is seeking to become Limerick's first ever directly elected mayor, a historic step for the Treaty City and Limerick County. And all our Green candidates, who will be standing on the 7th of June for local council elections, recognise that change comes first from the bottom up and is citizen-led. That improving our local environment and strengthening local democracy is the one thing we can control in this fearful world of change. Every person watching now at home also has a role to play, to cast a vote which declares what path forward we should take. It's a chance to reflect on everything you hear in the news every day and say in the privacy of your own marked ballot, this is where I think we need to go. Now, a vote for the Greens will improve the quality of life for all our people. The beauty of what we do is that it benefits both people and planet. It's a vote to protect our children's future and send a message to the wider world that this island of ours is still going green. And we are good at going green in this country. Over the last 2 decades, we've halved our emissions per person. And in the last 4 years in government, we've seen how much more we can do. Every week, 1,000 additional households are waking up in warmer homes with lower fuel bills, thanks to the retrofitting grants the Green Party introduced in government. Next week, we'll introduce a system for low-cost loans so that grant funding is available within everyone's reach. We scrapped the VAT on solar panels and abolished the need to get planning permission before putting them on our roofs. And the result? Solar panels are appearing on 100 new Irish homes every day, allowing people to generate their own clean power. And again, it's good for the pocket and good for the planet. Now, I've had a bird's eye view of what's happening because over the last 2 years, I've visited every single council chamber to hear and listen about their local climate plans. I've seen how people are helping to restore nature, starting up green businesses, and building stronger communities through social enterprise. I want to give you a few examples, share them with you, and I hope you won't mind if I start in my own backyard here in Dublin. 7 years ago, the Green Party got the state to buy from NAMA some 5,000 acres of heathland in the Glenismole Valley. It's a spectacular place, 14 miles upriver from here. It's the source of the River Dodder and now forms part of the Wicklow and Dublin Uplands National Park. Last summer, myself and Malcolm Noonan walked the land with local farmers as we started the rewilding of the river valley, bringing back native trees and wildlife, reducing the risk of flooding downstream. In Clonskee, we're working with the Dodder anglers to save our last wild salmon. 10 years ago, there was about 1,200 wild trout on the Liffey catchment. Now we're down to near 200. We can't let them become extinct. Down in Dublin Port, meanwhile, we are committed to doubling the size of the Poolbeg Nature Reserve. Rather than using it as a trailer park for containers, which is the alternative plan, we want to save paradise, take out the parking lot. Last week, I was blown away by the positive changes that are happening in Limerick City and County. Irish Rail are reopening the Foynes line at speed and are designing a new station for the people of Moyross. On O'Connell Street and the surrounding Georgian Quarter, it's coming alive thanks to traffic calming measures. And on Childers Road this week, the council opened a safer space for children to walk and cycle to school. The new bus park in Colbert Station is spectacularly beautiful, with new routes fanning out all over the Midwest. The city bus service has switched to electric and will expand by some 70% in the next 2 years. Now, if Brian Ledden is elected mayor, then Limerick will keep going green. He will be following in the footsteps of his mother and father before him. He has the tradition and the vision to make it happen. Let's get him elected. You can see similar progress in Waterford, which is one of the reasons it's our fastest growing city. A new sustainable transport bridge has been built across the River Suir to link with a new living quarter on the North Quays. It connects up all the greenways and the rail line that we will reopen to Rosslare. And such transport-led housing development is the key to future success. It works right down to the local level. I heard some inspiring words earlier this year from a Tidy Towns group in the parish of Kilteven, County Roscommon, who've developed with real pride a series of local woodland and peatland trails. As their chairperson Eileen Fahy said, "Anal na baha on Taharu, change is the breath of life." Last but not least, is the leadership coming up from Kerry. Minister of State Malcolm Noonan next week will announce a new national park for the county. Meanwhile, in the Dingle Hub, local farmers are coming together to forge a new smart farming solutions. And out on Slayhead, we introduced the first of the 150 new and enhanced rural bus services that we've introduced in government, and they're benefiting the people using it from the reduced public transport fares we also stitched in. And as a result, passenger numbers on that first route have increased 1,700%. I'm afraid that man from the Kingdom, I'm afraid I have some bad news for the Healy Rays. The Kingdom is going green, and the Kingdom to come is going to be 40 shades more if we have our way. I think this progress is unstoppable because the Irish people like it. The only question is, how fast can we go? Ireland has all the ingredients to make this green transition work. We've access to clean water. We've copious amounts of renewable power. We've one of the best workforces in the world and a stable political system which follows the rule of law and listens to social partners before making important decisions. The benefit for Ireland, if we keep going green, is that it improves every policy area. We're acutely aware of the shortage of housing for our young people. But we think we'll build some 40,000 homes this year, and if we can keep that number growing, we will solve the housing crisis. But it's not just a question. It's not just a question of which party can promise you the highest number of new builds. What matters just as much is how we make these homes affordable and create strong communities. And that's where we Greens come in. You can get the price down if you get the water, transport and energy infrastructure right, which is what we're good at. It becomes more affordable by supporting the restoration of vacant and derelict homes, which is what we've been doing for the last 4 years. At the same time, we have fundamentally changed the housing market with the introduction of the new cost rental model, a new type of public housing that's available to everyone, which lowers rents by stripping out the profit margin. We delivered 1,000 of those homes last year, and we've thousands more in the works. The way you build communities is by creating clean and lively streets where people feel safe because neighbours look out on and after each other. You build pride when you include green spaces from the start, and you design for children, for accessibility and for disability, which benefits everyone in the end. That's all green thinking, tuned into the reality of our everyday lives. Now, I want to thank Roderick O'Gorman and his team, who've done an incredible job in the most trying circumstances over the last 4 years, as they provided emergency accommodation for people fleeing from Ukraine and those seeking international protection. Roderick and his team will now use that experience to deliver the comprehensive accommodation strategy the government has just committed to. It will not be easy, but we will ensure that we have a fair and efficient migration system that offers sanctuary to those who are in genuine need. The real test in government is what you do when you're faced with hard decisions. The true mark of leadership is when you don't walk away, but stay committed to what you think is right. That's what Roderick has done in the face of enormous pressures. The masked men who gathered outside his home last Thursday night do not represent our people or our national flag. They do a disservice to it. We surely cannot let such intimidation hold sway. Voters therefore have a choice to make. This alternative politics based on fear and division is on the rise. I wouldn't define it as a right-wing or a conservative movement because it seems to me to have little regard for traditional values. Nihilism might be the better term. They seem to reject everything that is good with an anger that in the end will be corrosive and self-destructive. The gospel I grew up with never said the Good Samaritan should have walked on by. Similarly, the patriots we admired, from Tone to O'Connell and Connolly to Pearse, all had an international perspective to their national pride. I don't think they would have been at home with the simplistic idea that Ireland is now full. The republic we adhere and aspire to is a tolerant one, respectful of every colour or creed, celebrating diversity and providing shelter to those in need. There is another variety of politics. You might call it the politics of scepticism, which sometimes exists on the left. It baffles me because it talks about the need for a bigger state, but spends its time attempting to depict our country as some sort of failed state. Now, we have our weaknesses, undoubtedly, but Ireland is not a bad country to live in. Many of us love the place. What it needs is people who are willing to go into local and national government to make it better, not afraid of taking all the criticism that comes with that, realising that our everyday interactions with the Irish people are 1,000 times better than what you see online. A third and perhaps more cynical form of politics claims to support climate science but reverts to short-term political considerations when decisions have to be made and votes the other way. It's a subtle form of climate denial, and it's time to call it out. When reading the manifestos from the other parties, we will have some simple questions to ask. Are you willing to retain the active and public transport spending levels that we have set? Will you support the nature restoration law and fund nature-based solutions from farming? Will you bring in lower speed limits to save lives and deliver cost rental housing at scale? More than anything else, do you agree with the EU target, new one, of at least a 90% reduction in emissions by 2040? And if so, how do you think we should get there? Now, our European institutions have done well, in my mind, in responding to the series of crises which we've faced in recent years. We countered Putin's use of energy prices as a weapon of war. We passed the most comprehensive climate legislation, and we provided funding for a Green New Deal, which is the best way to protect our competitiveness and economic security. However, the mood in the last few months has changed. The focus, as one headline had it, has shifted from bees to bullets. The nature restoration law is now on hold, and the European Council presidency has just produced a draft strategy for the next 5 years, which effectively seeks to abandon the European Green Deal. We cannot let this happen. We cannot give up on climate change. We cannot let our natural world collapse. We are at a critical point in human history. If you believe that climate action cannot be delayed, then send a Green MEP to the European Parliament, for they may have the casting vote which tilts everything back in the right direction. This is the key question in the European election. Will the far right, whose main goal is to stop the green transition, win the day? It would be a calamity to let that happen. We need to keep going green. This is the peace project of our time. We can reduce conflict and forced migration by investing in energy and climate security in the most vulnerable countries in the world, as well as advancing our own just transition at home. That's what a green vote gives and delivers: peace in our time. While Ireland is small, we have a strong voice which is listened to in the world. I am convinced that our voice will all be all the stronger if we retain our position of military neutrality. Ireland's stance on the ongoing atrocities in Gaza, Ukraine and Sudan carry more weight because of our non-aligned position. We were clear in our condemnation of Hamas for their horrific crimes on October the 7th, but united in criticising Israel's collective punishment of the Gazan population and demanding an immediate ceasefire. We say to the Israeli government, we wholeheartedly support your right to exist, but please recognise that this war only does your cause more harm. A two-state solution is your only hope of raising your children in peace, because when your neighbour's security and prosperity is also guaranteed, so is yours. And it's not just what's happened in the last 6 months. The real problem has been the treatment of the Palestinian people over the last 60 years. The denial of their basic right in their own homeland has gone on for far too long. It's hard to escape the conclusion that they are being forced to live in an apartheid regime. It has to change. We have to think now of what happens after the ceasefire. The two-state solution has to be delivered, not parked in a diplomatic void where it has been for decades now. Finally, from the beginning, our Green movement has always used a simple slogan which urges people to think global and act local. This is as relevant as ever today. All the big changes we have to make in housing, transport, energy, and agriculture and health have to come from the bottom up and not just from the top down. For decades, we've been taking powers away from local government, but the delivery of the climate plans gives us a chance to return power to the local level. That requires real leadership on the councils, and we have a remarkable group of candidates who are highly skilled and ready to give it their all. We're running in every county, and I think for the first time, we've a real chance of getting a Green councillor elected to every chamber. Being a local councillor can be the most rewarding experience in political life. It allows you to change practical things in your own community. It's the ultimate Republican and civic act to put yourself forward. It changes your thinking from they should be doing something to we should be doing something. I salute all of you here today who've sat on the council or who are putting themselves forward to do just that. As I went around the country, I couldn't but be prouder of the work all our councillors have done over the last 5 years. They've been making our communities safer, greener and cleaner by design. Even if we didn't have to act on climate change and nature loss, this would still be the wise way to go. We've delivered enormous progress for people and planet over these last 5 years, but there are others out there who want to halt this progress and even reverse it. We need to knock on doors, listen to people, work hard for them, and ask them to trust us with their #1 vote on the 7th of June. Let's keep delivering what voters want. Let's keep fighting for our planet against the climate change skeptics who claim that nature isn't collapsing, even it's there before our very eyes. Let's not allow them to destroy the progress Ireland has made in recent years. Don't let them throw it all away. Let's help the world while improving our own homes and communities at the same time. Let's keep going forward. Let's keep going green as a country, as a people, as a party. Gura Maith Galera.
A standing ovation there for Eamon Ryan from Green Party colleagues in a speech in which he highlighted what he considers to be the Green Party's achievements in government, saying green policies benefit both people and the planet. There was applause when he made reference to the masked men who gathered outside Minister Roderick O'Gorman's home during the week, saying they do not represent Irish people or the national flag. Eamon Ryan will join the Week in Politics at noon tomorrow, and he will also be interviewed on This Week on RTE Radio 1 tomorrow at 1. That's all from our coverage of the Green Party conference at the RDS. From Dublin, good evening.